Tomorrow is the first day of 1985, and it's also the 1-year anniversary of my channel. During the last 365 days, several wrestlers have come and gone over the 52 weekly episodes that I aired, and a viewer of my channel recently suggested that I do a Where Are They Now segment for some of those that have disappeared into the ether. So, without further ado, Exotic Adrian Street. Initially getting on the wrong side of the likes of the Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant, Street and his valet, Miss Linda, eventually put their differences aside with Valiant when Paul Jones became too much of a hassle for both men. Throughout 1984, Adrian Street fought with varying degrees of success against Paul Jones's army, until fading away as just another casualty of war. We've seen pretty much all we'll see of the self-proclaimed Exotic One in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, as he'll eventually find his footing with Continental Championship Wrestling and stay with that promotion until 1989, before retiring from in-ring competition. The Moscas, King Kong Angelo Mosca Sr. and his son Angelo Mosca Jr. The patriarch of the Mosca family, King Kong Mosca, made his way to the WWF in August, after having spent the first half of the year being part of the NWA, specifically Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Since then, he's occasionally wrestled, but more often than not can be found on color commentary for WWF Maple Leaf Wrestling alongside Jack Reynolds. Angelo Mosca's son found success in his early career throughout 1984, winning the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship from the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff initially on February 4th. Episode 5 of my series, linked down below for your viewing pleasure, and holding it a total of 3 times before losing it to its current holder as of December 31st, 1984, Cowboy Ron Bass. We haven't seen Angelo Mosca Jr. since he lost the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship, but I don't think it's the last we'll see of Baby Kong Angelo Mosca Jr. B. Brian Blair got lost in the shuffle a bit in 1984. He initially teamed with another person I'll speak about later, Tony Garea, achieving mild success before having a go at it in the singles division. He hasn't quite got his groove going yet. Give it time, and B might find his killer instinct in 1985. Initially agreeing to help the Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant in his war against Paul Jones for just $1, Baron von Raschke soon faded away from Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling screens and hasn't been seen on my series since. That's because the Baron quickly moved on to the American Wrestling Association, where he found success in that promotion's tag team division, teaming with the Crusher to win the AWA World Tag Team Championships in May, before losing them to their current holders as of December 31st, 1984. The Road Warriors, Animal and Hawk. We will see Von Raschke again one day in both Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling and the World Wrestling Federation. Bob Backlund started 1984, having just lost the WWF World Heavyweight Championship to the Iron Sheik in December. Initially planning on regaining the championship, this quickly fell to the wayside with the introduction of Hulk Hogan. Episode 1 of my series linked down below for your viewing pleasure. And Backlund found himself instead focusing on his work with children in athletics. Since then, there's been no sign of the Boy Scout on WWF TV, and this is because Bob Backlund has since been competing on the joint program between the AWA and NWA, Pro Wrestling USA. He'll continue to further fade into obscurity and be considered retired until the early 90s, where Bob Backlund will have a career resurgence. Whether you're referring to Bulldog Buzz Sawyer in the WWF or Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Buzz Sawyer was hard to keep hold of. An absolute madman in and outside of the ring, Buzz Sawyer most notably had it out verbally with Brian Adidas in the National Wrestling Alliance. But despite a lot of back and forth, neither Adidas nor Sawyer had a proper singles match to settle their differences, instead facing off against each other in a tag team match. Episode 31 of my series, linked down below for your viewing pleasure. Sawyer has since bounced around varying promotions within the NWA banner, but one day in the future, in a promotion that doesn't yet quite exist, we may yet again see Buzz Sawyer. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where Dory Funk Jr. could be on December 31st, 1984. After competing in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling for the first half of 1984, Dory Funk Jr. seemed to drop off the face of the earth. But that does not mean that he was inactive. In fact, he'll go on to receive a 5-star rating from wrestling reporter Dave Meltzer, if that means anything to you, competing in a tag team match alongside his brother Terry Funk against Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen this month, December 1984. Dory Funk Jr. will spend a lot of time touring and competing across the entire world, but we will see him again in the future, 1986, when he debuts with the World Wrestling Federation. The Fabulous Freebirds, or the Fubar Freeloaders as I began to refer to them while under the so-called management of Cyndi Lauper's loser boyfriend David Wolf. They had a blink and you'll miss it tenure in the WWF over the summer, having debuted on special episode 33.1 of my series, linked down below for your viewing pleasure. And since then they haven't been seen in some time. This is because they've been since let go from the WWF, reportedly for being late to an event. A tag team as prolific as the Fabulous Freebirds will no doubt once again show up. But for the time being, Buddy Roberts, Michael Hayes, and Terry Gordy will compete in many promotions and gain accolades in every single one. Kamala rampaged his way through both Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling and the WWF in 1984, having fought against Andre the Giant over the summer, falling to the 8th wonder of the world in a steel cage. Since then, the Ugandan Giant and his handler Friday have moved on to the American Wrestling Association, but it won't be long before we see Kamala in the NWA again sometime in 1985. There is so much in store for professional wrestling in 1985, so make sure that you hit the bell, like the video, and subscribe to my series so that you're notified when every single episode of the year is released. You can also follow me on social media, where I'll make sure every single day of 2024 feels like 1985 all over again. That's all for now. Happy New Year. So long.